Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here in Cyprus and to be on your podcast. I am so excited to be here and I'm looking forward to our conversation very much. So, neuroscience can describe a spiritual experience in the sense when we experience oneness or transcendence. Neuroscience can help us see what are the neural correlates of it, like what kind of neural activity we have, which parts of our brain light up, and we can relate them to each of the experience. But neuroscience cannot explain why we have this experience. Where did the experience originate? Where did it come from? Let me give you a simple example. Neuroscience can show you what your brain is like when you feel love. Love of a mother for a child, love of a man for nature, but cannot explain why does a mother love her child? Why does humanity love in nature? So there is a difference between explain and describe. So I will summarize. Neuroscience can describe the neural correlates and physical states, but not explain the origin of a spiritual experience. Now, there is a lot of research that exists where you can see some specific states of the brain come alive when, for example, nuns are in a meditative state, or when you Buddhist monks are meditating. So there is a lot of that correlation we found. Now, spiritual experience is deeply personal. Every individual's spiritual experience is unique and it is felt at many levels. So it's only the physiological level of that experience is perhaps what we can measure. And it's only a tip of a huge iceberg. We don't even fully understand how the brain functions. So, for us as neuroscientists to claim that we can explain a spiritual transcendent experience by studying the brain, I think would be tremendously arrogant, and I certainly do not belong in that club.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. So, how can we better understand the nature of consciousness?
It's a great question. When people use the word consciousness, they mean many different things. When a neuroscientist uses the word consciousness, sometimes they mean qualia, self awareness. That means an organism knowing I am. Like you knowing I am Maria, I'm separate from the world, or I'm separate from Leo. That's self awareness. That's what consciousness is for a neuroscientist. When a quantum physicist talks about consciousness, they are talking about something completely different. They're talking about causality, or roughly speaking, the arrow of time. When a philosopher is speaking about consciousness, they are talking about the self concept, the arising of the self and how it's constructed, whether and depending on whether the philosopher is an ontologist or a metaphysicist or a panpsychist, they have a different view. Now, a spiritual teacher or a spiritual student, when they talk about consciousness, they are talking about a state of transcendent where you experience boundaryless oneness with the whole universe, where a you ceases to exist and you experience that momentary stillness where there is wholeness that lies beyond words. In Buddhism, we call it the state of Nibbana. So there are many different lenses with we can look at consciousness. The way I would describe it, consciousness is the ground of everything. All the observed world arises from consciousness. So it is everything, nothing, all encompassing, nothing left out, infinite, boundless reality within which we have the experience of being alive. So you are consciousness, the plants are consciousness, this building is consciousness, just different artifacts. And the more and more we can find that common thread of creation and awareness that ties us together in a large whole, like that blank canvas on which we are drawn, the more and more we understand the nature of how consciousness resides within us. That would be my answer.
Okay, it's a clear answer actually.
Thank you.
So, what role does self awareness play in decision maker and success?
So, self awareness is tremendously important, because when you have self awareness, you have some degree of working answers to life's most important questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose of what I do in my life? What's going to be my legacy when I'm dead and gone? So when you have high degree of self-awareness about your core values, your attitudes, etc., they guide your actions and choices you make. So your core values and choices you make give you the life you have, and they guide your behavior as a leader. So leaders that are more self-aware tend to have higher level of integrity. They need to have higher level of compassion for colleagues that they work with. They tend to have greater level of empathy about the impact of what they do on the society, on people's lives. Overall, they are leaders with greater sense of vision, and they're just more nurturing to be around. So I think I would say self-awareness is one of the top qualities to be a leader. It's a top quality to have fulfillment in your life. It's also a top quality to have a life that you actually truly love day by day.
So self-awareness is very important. Yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. The most, I mean, from president of countries to billionaires to CEOs of corporations, I have found that common thread across all of them, that exceptional leaders have a very high degree of self-awareness.
Good. So, are there practical methods to reach a higher stage of consciousness?
Yes, absolutely. So there are both tools and techniques that you can cultivate intentionally. So mindful practices of being able to expand your presence, moment awareness, um, breath work to be more parasympathetic dominant, not to be in a fight and flight response all the time. To be a meditative practices, of course, help you experience that sense of oneness, that boundarylessness. It grows your compassion. It gives you a sense of mental clarity, a balanced state of emotions, and that sense of purpose that transcends you. Even fasting can help you physically cleanse the body, and most religions in the world have, and spiritual systems have fasting at the center of it. It cleanses your body, cleanses your mind and emotions, and brings you a state of wholesomeness. You see, to reach a higher state of consciousness, you are simply getting in touch with the true nature of yourself. Who are you really? Who is Maria beyond just this physical body and the label? Once you experience some inquiry and some clarity into that, that's what you can begin to say is the beginning of accessing and experiencing a higher state of consciousness.
So, a very important question is who you are. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's what I would call the Yaksha Prashna, or in Sanskrit, or simply speaking, that's the source question. That really is from where science and philosophy and religion and spirituality have originated. They basically are different lenses of exploring the same question. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my relationship with the greater whole? These are the questions that humanity has been exploring for thousands of years.
Yeah. So, how does meditation impact the brain and mental health?
Absolutely. And let me try to answer these questions in three parts, if it's
Yeah.
okay. So, there is tremendous amount of evidence that regular practice of meditation literally physically changes your brain. So you see more presence of gray matter in hippocampus, in the prefrontal cortex, etc. These are the parts of the brains that are related with memory, with learning, with emotional regulation, having a sense of resilience, etc. And it reduces activity in amygdala, etc., which is more fear-driven parts of our brain per se. So literally, when you see regular meditators' brains, they physically look different, and the neural activity in the brain really looks different. That's really the biological impact. And then once that changes, when you have more love and compassion, when you have more empathy, when you have more balanced emotions, everything in your life is different. You're a better parent, you're a better partner, you're a better professional, you're a better citizen of the society, etc., etc. Now, in terms of emotional and mental well-being, meditation reduces stress, mind wandering, anxiety, rumination, worry, and sleep. There's tremendous amount of research around it. It is an overwhelming evidence. I've personally been part of research where just 10 minutes of meditation 3 to 4 times a week completely eliminated mild to moderate categories of depression and anxiety from a workplace population. And finally, the third part of that answer is about, it's not just about mental health is not absence of mental distress or disorder. It's about having a sense of joy, having a sense of peace, having a sense of calm, having a sense of that, oh wow, life is good, I'm so happy. Meditation allows you to have that savoring experience that you can literally say, life is good.
Nice. Okay, so life is good.
Yes.
Are there scientific studies providing that meditation can transform our life?
Yes, absolutely. And you can use many different lenses. There is tremendous evidence around where meditation can help with emotional regulation, with your brain and behavioral health, like literally transform your brain. Meditation can also help you reverse the side effects of autoimmune conditions. There's tremendous, especially the work of Dr. Gavamate. If you refer, you realize that complex health conditions ranging from rheumatic arthritis to cancer to PTSD, etc. A lot of them have positively benefited from meditation. In addition to helping us recover from health challenges, both physical, emotional, and mental, on the other side of it, meditation can also have the ability to have greater focus. So we are better at the job that we do, greater sense of patience, and greater sense of compassion. So we can be a better parent and we can be a better partner, have a sense of mental clarity and present moment awareness, which allows us to be more empathetic to those around us. So there is no area of life I can imagine where having a regular practice of meditation does not positively impact outcomes. I think, like going to the gym is for the physical body. Meditation is the equivalent for your emotional, mental, and spiritual body. Those aspects of your life where you are nurturing yourself, you are expressing love towards your emotions and feelings and building that resilience and inner strength. So when there is tough time, which is inevitable in life, you have more resources to draw upon. So that really is the true power of meditation.
Good. So now we're going to the leadership. Yeah, very important
Of course,
chapter.
absolutely.
Yeah. How do self-awareness and spirituality influence the leadership?
So let's examine a little bit about who is really a leader, right? There's so many definitions, there are thousands of definitions, but I would like to choose one common thread of a leader. Leader has the capacity to create a dynamic in an organization. Means leaders are someone who shape reality for those around them, how they feel, how they think, what they act, and have a direct impact on others. When leaders are more driven by a sense of purpose, they are more authentic, they have more integrity, their actions and speech are more correlated, they have a more inspiring presence, people like to work with them, for them. They are able to create empowered teams from a place of being of service to others, not of grabbing of power and control. People around them tend to grow more. Such leaders also have the ability to think beyond, to balance between purpose and profit. And leaders really have this responsibility that they have been trusted with resources and positions of influence that they can literally shape the destiny of the company and of the people, therefore of their families and the society at large. That having a degree of self-awareness where you know what your core values are, based on that you make your choices day by day, and those choices impact others. This is a continuous stream of thoughts. So I believe that self-aware leaders have greater ability to have more fulfilling life for themselves, more impact on the society, greater ability to nurture those around them, and also drive better shareholder value. There's tremendous amount of research that purpose-based businesses and authentic self-aware leaders deliver better ROI. There's a 40-year study from Harvard Business School that was conducted by one of my professors where they found that almost 13% higher accumulative return by leaders that were known for their high degree of self-awareness. So it's an empirical fact.
Nice. But how can a leader maintain a balance between the success and the personal happiness, which is very difficult, yeah?
Yes. So, so first and foremost, you have to see success looks very different to different sets of people, and I mean no disrespect, but I always say this, what does a hungry person want? A piece of bread, right? Or what does a blind man want? 4 eyes. When you have dealt with success, in our early stages of our life, success is about goals that others judge us by whether we are successful or not. So, a lot of the things that we do in life are not always what we want to do, but is what others expect us to do. How we look successful is based on what others expect us to be like when we are successful, to have a certain type of job, certain type of position in the society, certain type of house, a certain type of body, certain type of partner, and all of that. Now, when you have all of that, you realize that there is more to life. That, okay, this all gave me the pleasure of being appreciated and accomplished, but somehow there is still a little bit of emptiness. Where do I go from here? I've reached the top of the pyramid. What is next after me? The more successful you are, the more you feel that vacuum of a sense of meaning and purpose. I always say this: if you run the race of success like a rat race, even if you win, you are still a rat. You're not the king of the jungle who has a sense of full self-expression. That's when the journey to fulfillment starts. The journey to fulfillment is about finding what I do matters. What I do makes a difference. What I do has the capacity to contribute to other people's life and last a longer period of time after I'm dead and gone. When you have an attitude of service, when you have an attitude of contribution, when you have a certain degree of selflessness, when you are able to be part of something that's larger than you, that level of fulfillment is what brings lasting joy in your life. Most successful people have this, I call it the choice. When they have achieved the peak of their success, either they can get on the hedonic treadmill, which becomes about more money, bigger house, more cars, more jewelry, more watches, or they can go towards fulfillment and meaning and purpose, where they become a change agent. They become the raison d'etre becomes about how can I be of contribution, how can I be of service, how can I use my privilege to make a difference. And those leaders that actually make this choice, they tend to be more fulfilled overall. And this is something that I have actually addressed in the book that is in your hand. Life is good. Yes, absolutely.
Book. Life is
yes,
good.
absolutely.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, so we're going now to science and spirituality.
Of course.
More difficult chapter, yeah.
Very interesting indeed.
Very interesting indeed, yeah. Is there a conflict between science and spirituality?
Look, there is no inherent conflict between science and spirituality. This perception of conflict is a very recent phenomena. If you look at the greatest scientists, Einstein and Wolfgang Pauli and Werner Heisenberg and Max Planck, they were all very spiritual people. And for them, science was one lens they used to look at the nature of creation, the nature of matter, the nature of reality. They were all very spiritual people. You will find it in all their writings. I mean, for example, Heisenberg used to say, I go to the Vedas to ask the question, and so did Max Planck. Similarly, not just spirituality, but some of the greatest discovery in science have been made by men and women of faith. I will give an example of John Lemaitre. He was a Jesuit priest. He was the first one who used Einstein's equation to see an implication of theory of relativity and came up with the Big Bang model. So can you imagine? The Big Bang model was proposed by John Lemaitre, a Jesuit priest. He went on to become the head of Pontifical Academy of Sciences, and he was public about he finds no conflict between his faith as a priest and his scientific work of the Big Bang theory. So this is not really a dichotomy. These are two different lenses. Now, if you go deep enough, you will begin to see they take different approaches to find the nature of creation, the nature of human experience, but they have many similar elements. And I will give you a technical example, if you will indulge me. In quantum physics, we have the M theory, where we say that from quantum vacuum fluctuations, from nothing literally, like vacuum is nothing, has quantum vacuum fluctuations, from which arises strings, which make particles and which creates molecules, and then we have all of this reality. So from nothing comes everything, like literally from vacuum, there are quantum fluctuations, and you get this big world. The Vedas talk about Brahman as a universal, formless, boundless, impersonal, all-encompassing reality from where this creation arises. To me, both of them are very similar arguments, made just using different language. And I can give you similar examples from all different faiths. So I personally do not see them as a dichotomy. I see them on a continuum, where science comes from the point of view of evidence to explain reality. That is a deductive method. Religion and spirituality come from the area of beliefs, and then they explain the observed experience on the basis of belief. And by the way, today's science can be tomorrow's spirituality. Let me give you an example. Today we see stars in the sky, but the universe is expanding at the speed of light. In a few million years, when you will look up at the sky, you will not see any stars, you will not see any planets, because universe would have expanded so much that the sky would just be empty. Imagine at that time you find the quantum physics and astrophysics textbooks, which talks about when you look up, there are these shiny things called stars, and there's shiny thing called planets, and there are constellations. And then you will say, but I do not see. None of this is real. This seems like all spiritual mumbo jumbo of people who lived the thousands of years ago. And then suddenly, what is cutting edge science today will just become a metaphysical belief, because nothing will be observable in the universe. The universe would have expanded. So when you look at the timeline of existence of humanity, I have noticed that a lot of religious beliefs have become scientific beliefs, a lot of spiritual beliefs have become scientific beliefs, a lot of scientific beliefs are now becoming spiritual beliefs. So in my mind, there is no conflict. They are just different lenses to look at the same reality.
Nice. So let's talk about happiness and
my favorite subject.
Yeah, I think for all is
Yes.
What does science tell us about happiness?
So happiness means many different things. By the way, there is not a word that describes happiness in ancient languages. English is a very modern language, right? What's the Greek word for it? Eudaimonia, right? It's completely different from the conventional meaning of happiness. See, happiness is not one thing. It has at least 6 levels. The lowest level of happiness is what I would call pleasure, or a pleasant life, where eating the ice cream, or buying a new car, or having a certain type of relationship. This life is about the hedonic pleasures of life. The thing about it is like this: we habituate to them very quickly. So if I give you a big bowl of ice cream, the first spoon will be very delicious. The next spoon will be less delicious. If I force you to eat the whole bowl, even though it's delicious, you will get sick, you will not want to eat it. That's the hedonic pleasure. The more you have, the lasting happiness from it lives for a very short period of time, right? So the day you love your car most is the day you buy it. The day you love enjoy your vacation most is the day you book it, not when you arrive and you have to deal with the logistics. So that's like the hedonic levels of happiness. I call it the pleasant life. Then comes the good life. Good life is about having social engagement, having people around you where you can share some experiences, right? Above good life, then comes a meaningful life. Meaningful life gives you an inner self-confidence of what I do matters. It makes a positive difference, and my work is meaningful. That is the beginning of lasting joy. So the sustainability of happiness really starts from the third level of meaningful life. Among meaningful life is purposeful life, which is even deeper sense of happiness, can last a whole lifetime. Purposeful life is where you say, not only that what I do makes a difference, it will last forever. I am part of something larger than myself. I am doing something, not what I want to do, but what needs to be done, what makes the world a better place. That sense of being of service to a larger whole, that sense of purpose gives you a spring in your step and a sunshine worldview day after day. And then, of course, there's the fulfilled life where you have that experience of living your greatest life. I always ask the people the question, how much of your life would you change if you had only one more year to live? How much of your life would you change if you have 1 month to live? How much of your life you would change if you were going to die tomorrow? When you get to a point where you would change nothing or almost nothing, that is a state of living a truly fulfilled life. Living a life powerfully and living a life you love. And the final stage of happiness is a liberated life. Liberated life is where you have a transcendent experience that I am a part of nature. I am a speck of light in this brilliant sun of light, that I find wholeness in all of creation. I don't experience the sense of observe duality, and you live in harmony with nature, both within yourself and outside. And that is the greatest sense. In spirituality, we call it nirvana or nibbana in Buddhism, where you have liberation from all constraints that may bring us any form of attachment or suffering. So happiness is a whole steps. The first three are explained empirically, scientifically. The next three are explained more as a inner journey, as a spiritual experience. But nonetheless, the outcome is how long and what's the quality of happiness that you feel.
Complicated, the happiness, yeah.
Actually,
So complicated.
it sounds complicated, but the actions you can take
Yeah.
of being of service, doing random acts of kindness, of having gratitude and having goodwill are very, very easy. There are simple things you can do, writing letters of gratitude, taking a moment to express your joy at simple things, engaging in nurturing activities like a glass of tea, a glass of wine, etc. So you can nurture or engaging in work where you are giving back when you already have success, or you are engaging more with the people around you, or creating a community that helps you grow, bring out the best in you. So while it sounds complicated as a philosophical construct, but the things you can do are actually very simple and straightforward. And I mean, I talk a lot about that in this particular book.
Good, clear. So, how can we overcome anxiety and uncertainty in today's world?
Yeah, the world that we live is VUCA world, you know.
Yeah.
So anxiety or depression or any sort of these conditions, a lot of their origination comes from rumination, which is racing thoughts, that where you go down a pathway, you catastrophize the outcomes, or worrying about the fixing the past, ruminating the past to fix it, or worrying about the uncertainty of the future, right? So as you can engage with contemplative practice of meditation, you have more emotional regulation and you have greater sense of present moment awareness. When you have the capacity to experience life one moment at a time and to be aware of the emotions that are coming in from you, some may be positive, some may not be so positive. So the way I explain this is, using meditation, you don't change the ocean which has waves up and down, which is like emotions that cause anxiety or worry or any of that, but you can learn to surf. So they don't affect you as much. So my personal belief is that if you can develop a practice of mindfulness and meditation, it will allow you to build a degree of emotional balance, mental resilience, and a sense of inner well-being, that you may have anxious thoughts, but you will not have anxiety. You may have thoughts from time to time where you worry about uncertainty and the future, but you will not live every moment of your life with that worry. So just like, Rumi, a famous poet, always talked about, welcoming who shows up in this body in the morning. So that really is the goal of meditation and mindfulness, that you can welcome in those feelings but not get attached and overwhelmed with them. So it's about building that muscle With practice, you can overcome it. I am not a believer that until and unless you have a medically untreatable condition, or you have treatment resistance, anxiety or depression now, and you have to go for pharmaceutical solutions. It's mostly through meditation practices, mindfulness, looking at your nutrition, engaging in physical exercise, drinking some sun every day, having engagement in positive relationships, that you can transform your experience of being alive.
Okay, perfect. So now we have reincarnation and karma. It's my favorite question, yeah?
Yeah.
Is there scientific or philosophical evidence supporting the idea of reincarnation?
Yes. Let me say it in this way. I mean, you've combined two very deep subjects, reincarnation and karma.
Yeah.
So, by the way, there has been a lot of research, and Dr. Strugfam, etc., they researched over 2,000 different children that remembered verifiable details of their past lives. It was empirically documented and published. You know, the work of Dr. Brian Weiss, Dr. Shakuntala Modi, they have produced cases after cases and empirical quality cases, which scientifically suggests that there is a overwhelming evidence that people have remembered lives that they did not live, but they provided verifiable details, right? So that's as far as evidence goes. It's not possible to prove or disprove reincarnation, right? Because we will have to understand how reincarnation takes place, because for scientifically evidence, you need to understand the process, the mechanism. That is not provable by science. But there is evidence to suggest, like I always say, evidence of absence is not absence of evidence, or the other way, like that, right? Now, on the philosophical or the spiritual side, there is many different schools of thought, ranging from metaphysical to panpsychist to spiritual, where it is believed that there is a continuous stream of consciousness that we are born with. There is a certain set of memories, certain set of learning, certain set of wisdom, certain set of opportunities or good grace, as we say, we are born into this life, which is an outcome of how we lived our past life. And what we do, so that gives us our predestiny. And then we have freedom to make choices in this life, which gives us the entitlement for what will happen to us in afterlife, whatever afterlife essentially means. Every religion tells us that the more virtuous life we live, the better afterlife we have. Every system of philosophy tells us. So, from a philosophical and spiritual lens, I think this is beyond debate, beyond dispute. Like every Eastern system of philosophy, every Eastern system of religion, and including most conventional religions also have different ways in which we say reincarnation. Buddhism talks about the assembling of the five aggregates. There are branches of Christianity that believed in reincarnation, and there are lots of Gnostic gospels, etc., around it. I mean, there is the whole philosophy in Judaism which talks about the logos from which all of creation takes place, and of course, the principle of karma. The important thing to understand from here is to see this life that we have is a snapshot in time. What happened before that is not as important, but it explains what is the set of cards we have in this life. Then we have free will. We can choose how to play these cards, and based on the choices we make, it will determine what happens to us in afterlife, whether it's a reincarnation, whether it is salvation, whether it is going to heaven. But all it matters is belief we have in our life, what we have deserved and earned before we were born. Based on the choices we make and how we live this life, it will be determined what happens to us after we are dead and gone. I think that's the most important part of reincarnation and the karma principle, or karma siddhanta, as we say, for us to know, that can help us make awesome choices for this life.
Perfect. A lot of information. So, before we close, Leo, is there a final thoughts you want to share with us after this conversation?
It's been such a joy to have this conversation. I think I will say it's really, the experience of being alive, having this life, is such a gift that we live breath by breath, moment by moment. Each one of us owes it to ourselves to curate a life that's life of meaning, life of purpose, where we can authentically say, this is my greatest life, not a life imposed on us by society's choices or pressure performance, but being able to say, I'm living a life powerfully, I'm living a life I love. If I die tomorrow, there's nothing I would change in my life. And that is a state of joy and happiness and self-expression and well-being that is possible and available to every person. And we can make that choice breath by breath, moment by moment, action by action. And that's what I would like to invite everyone to consider, having that sense every day that life is good. I'm so blessed. I'm grateful to life. And that's what I wish for everyone too.
The best message. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Maria. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.